Exits for position. Goes around the outside, it's in his team.
Qualified.
Hello, everybody. Whoop, whoop, family. Juggalos in the house. Welcome back to another episode of Barely Qualified, a Formula One podcast. We're your host. I'm Channing Apodaca, the man, as always, across the screen. B. Wood, the Brandon Wood of the world, the one and only.
Yo, reporting live from the gathering.
Hell yeah, dude. Whoop, whoop. You got your Fago on hand?
Whoop, whoop. Yeah, luckily this weekend fully sponsored by Fago, so we've just got cases of it all over. My favorite, the cotton candy flavor.
That's the classic one. I was looking at a thing online the other day. Don't ask why. I was going through the catalog of Fago products, but you know they have more flavors than any other soda brand in the world.
I couldn't believe it.
They have like hundreds and hundreds of flavors. That's like, other than being, you know, the official soda of the Juggalo family, they boast the most flavors. And you know they actually refuse to say anything about Juggalos?
I mean, I can understand why.
I get it, but at this point, you know, you got to know where your money's made. You got to know who bakes your bread. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, I guess, Fago. Yeah. At a certain point, you'd think that they would just team up.
The thing is, I mean, they're doing well enough without having leaned into it, so
True.
They're working for them.
True. I would like to see them one day just embrace it. That would be nice. It would be amazing if we actually did. I've always wanted to go to the gathering of the Juggalos. Could you imagine how just like
sure about that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I wouldn't partake in everything that they're doing, but just to see it, god damn, what a circus that would be.
Yeah, from an anthropological standpoint, it would be good to go.
Yeah, I'd just be taking notes like whoever the guy was that wrote The Naked Ape. Juggalo Nation, Gathering of the Juggalos, if you're looking for a podcast to come and do a live show about nothing that has to do with anything going on at the gathering, we're your two guys. That being said, B. Wood just passed us, the Japanese Grand Prix. How you feeling, fella?
This looked like an awesome race to be at. Much like Australia, this is one of my favorite tracks that we go to. And this looks like it would have been so fun to be there this weekend. I know normally it's later in the year. It doesn't quite have as good a weather as although it was kind of wet, but it's still like the spring was springing. You know what I mean? Like you saw some of the blossoms, and you saw the huge crowds. Everybody came out. Show their support. It was just overall looked like an amazing weekend to be there. So
I think
it was just cool race to watch.
Dude, I think the Japanese fans might be just the best as a whole group. They show up and it's a literal sprinkling of everything you can imagine. There's no like one team that dominates. You would think it might be, an RB festival, but no, you got McLaren fans there. You got people out there in the Aston Martin gear, the one-off Alpine fan, a lot of Ferrari heads showing up, a lot of Red Bull, yeah, that's to be expected. But it's just a beautiful smattering. Like, they really just embrace it. All their little crafts and the hats that they make are it's like the Super Bowl commercial of the Super Bowl. You're watching the race, but you're also there to see the fans and the creativity that they come up with for their garb and their merch, It's such a fun event to just sit back and watch.
Yeah, one of my favorite shots of the weekend was during FP2. They showed the guy, he had a Red Bull jersey and a cool hat that he made. And then when the camera was on him, he very quickly switched it all off and switched to the Aston Martin uniform with his Aston Martin hat. It was
I didn't catch that.
In anticipation for next year. Yeah, in anticipation for next year.
Yeah, looking ahead a little bit. Not next year. It's is it 2025 or is it 2026?
2026.
There we go. One of the new ones that I spotted, I don't know if you saw this guy, but we've seen them with, their hats that have the makeshift DRS that they can open up and close. This guy had a diffuser that would actually light up. I don't know if you caught that, but I thought that was genius.
I didn't catch that, but that's pretty sweet. I like them just stepping it up a notch every year with the technology.
Every year they bring something new.
See it.
Pretty solid race, I would say, in terms of, the short calendar that we've had so far. I'd say it's up there as one of the better ones. Not exactly, in my opinion, what I think we expect from the Japanese Grand Prix. I want a little bit more action. A little bit more competition. Is it safe to say, as Formula One fans, are we allowed to say that Suzuka is even boring?
I don't think that it has anything to do with the circuit. I'd say this is probably one of the more fun circuits of the season, just because it does have naturally like high degradation,
Mm-hmm.
forcing a lot of teams to go to a two-stop strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So therein you see, when cars are offset, them trying to get back into position. You see a lot of overtaking. You see a lot of your pit stop comes into play a lot more. So
All right. Well, then I think maybe
I
it.
think it maybe is like this boringness that you're feeling is more just inherent to this current, either this generation or this current, the fact that we got Max and the Red Bulls just running away with it.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question.
So consistently.
Is it a bigger problem that Formula One has with cars not being able to follow, even though that this new iteration, this new generation of cars is supposed to fix that? And the fact that, I mean, a lot of people are talking about it. The great Matt and Tommy from the P1 podcast, they were saying it. I totally agree. Modern day Formula One cars are too big. This is an amazing track. It is a little bit on the narrow side in a lot of, sectors. The straightaway coming off the start-finish line is nice and wide. You can get a lot of action if everybody gets a good start there. But heading into turn one, it really starts to narrow. Daniel Ricciardo knows it. Alex Albon knows it. These cars, I think, are just too big. And I think that shrinking them in the next era of cars could fix a lot of tracks. Hungary, Suzuka, it could bring back the greatness of Monaco a little bit. Who knows? Just something I noticed because Suzuka is one of the greatest tracks that we have on the calendar, and there was some action, there was some excitement, there was a little bit of overtaking, but not what we've come to expect from a great track like Suzuka. I felt like, with the Max dominance, the Red Bull dominance, I wanted a little bit more. I was just left a little hungry. That's all.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think cars definitely, when you look at the current generation of cars compared to, the 10 years ago, you can see how much bigger they actually are, and it's very, very, very obvious. So I think that's definitely playing a part. The reasons why they are bigger is probably just for safety reasons, just to make a little safer for drivers in instance of a crash and stuff like that. But we probably do get a bit of less action and slower cars because of it. So,
yeah. Either way,
but thankfully weather worked out this weekend. Made it for just some straight racing, so we're able to get a kind of better view of like what's happening this year, especially because we were here not that long ago, so it's only September. So it's cool to have that little snapshot for the cars this weekend. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Starting off, if you're James Vowles, are you God, what are you? You've been handed the keys to this new era that we're supposed to be entering for Williams, and they look good. They have good straight line speed, as always. But no matter what you do, weekend after weekend, the wheels just seem to quite literally be coming off. Are you hanging your head in shame? Are you looking to new drivers? Are you playing the media role and just pressing forward? Logan Sargent, once again, coming off a weekend where they don't have an extra car, back into a weekend where they don't have an extra car until, what is it? Jeez, I forget which race they're supposed to have the new chassis.
I think it was China, so that would be the next round, but because Alex's chassis was, I think his chassis was damaged.
Okay. Either way,
here,
to start the weekend off, Logan Sargent doesn't even get to race because of damage to his chassis. They put Alex Albon in his car, and what does he do in the first practice of the weekend? Bin it hard. You see that chassis bouncing up and down off the curbs. I saw that, and I was just like, Jesus Christ, dude. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, just keep it on track.
That's all you got to do. Finish 2 laps down, man.
Bring home.
I think at this point he's crashed more than Nicholas Latifi and Nikita Mazepin did. Maybe not combined, but I think Logan Sargent has had more shunts than both of them.
Yeah, I mean, you look over like the amount of time that he's been in the car comparatively, it's probably true. I mean, there's such a tough spot because, James came into the season trying to do a whole rehaul on just their whole manufacturing process. And so that's partially why they're so far on their back foot. So when these little things happen, weekend after weekend, and they're just still stuck in this hole, it's going to be really difficult for them to just gain any headway, right?
Yeah.
Because Logan had a brand new front wing that he ended up wrecking in that crash. So an FP1 wasn't able to actually get out for FP2. So just they need as much help as they can get right now, and so these little setbacks are going to be pretty pretty disastrous for them, I think, in the long run. But yeah, it's tough. You hate to see it. First race, Daniel Ricciardo, Alex Albon crashing before they get to the third turn. And by no faults of Alex's, this was definitely a Ricciardo mistake.
Yeah, he got
Although he
squeezed.
wasn't penalized for obvious reasons, but you can't be moving around on the track on the first lap like that and expect to get out unscathed. So overall, very disappointing for Alex to not even get a chance, not even get through the first lap is very difficult and frustrating.
Yeah, it's like Daniel Ricciardo's thinking that he's still at the front of the pack, not realizing that he's in the back middle of the pack and thinking that he has all this space. It's like, no, dude, your job is to get out of the first couple of turns clean. But he's weaving, he's squeezing, and both him and Alexander Albon came on the worst side of it. You hate to see it. You just hate to see it. Daniel Ricciardo really, really, really having a tough go of it, and a lot of it on his own volition. I do think that was nothing more than an incident, but be a little bit more aware out there. Let's talk about his teammate, though. Yuki Tsunoda getting points at home. First time in maybe his Formula One career, I want to say, that he's gotten points at Suzuka. And another great showing. A top 10 finish. I don't think that my prediction came alive where I had him, top 8? He finished 10th.
Yeah.
Grabs a point. Good on Yuki. He is showing that he is the best of the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. He just solid all the way through the weekend. Qualified better than Daniel.
Mm-hmm.
At the race, the first start didn't quite work out from that great. He actually moved back a couple of positions. So his qualifying position of 10th actually was on the restart. He was starting from 12th. So he kind of starting on the back foot a little bit, was able to make those places back up. He did get a little bit of a gift with a great pit stop at one point towards the later end of the race where he was kind of stuck behind that group of cars. It was Bottas and was it Sargent was in there? I feel like there was
I don't
Haas maybe in that
remember.
mix, a Magnussen.
I believe there was a Haas in the mix. But it was funny to hear
There was
Yuki
like 4
give
cars.
it was funny to hear Yuki
Yeah.
give a big thank you for the first time. Like, I don't think I've ever heard him go on radio and congratulate and thank his team before. It's always just been hatred and vitriol and anger. And I thought for a second, I was like, is he being sarcastic?
That's exactly what I thought. He's like, great stop, guys.
Yeah, great stop. Great job. Great job. Thank you, guys. And I know that they don't practice sarcasm in Japan, so I was like, wait a second.
They don't have sarcasm in Japan. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, I was just trying to be linguistically nice by saying practice. It was a great race from Yuki, and you got to start thinking, if he's best of the rest, how much is his name in the conversation? Because we've gotten a little bit of heat in our comments from this, and when the conversation comes up about who's going to take that second Red Bull seat, should and when it open up, whether it's Checo leaving the team or retiring, or Max, with all these rumors of him retiring early, who's it going to be? I'm very convinced that Liam Lawson will get a seat. Should Yuki's name be in the conversation, and is there going to be 2 seats opening up over the next few years for Liam Lawson and Yuki? He's really pressing the issue, but at the same time, Checo has had a really, really solid start to his season, and he's done the job that he's there to do. I wrote it down. He's finished P2, P2, P5, and P2 in the first 4 starts of the season, with that P5 in Australia coming because I believe he had a little bit of an issue with his car. Helmut Marko, of all people, even came to his defense. So solid numbers coming from Checo, and he almost, very, very close, I think it was 2/100ths of a second, took pole position in this race. So he's showing up. Who knows about his longevity at this team or even in the sport, but for now, he's doing the job that he's promised.
Yeah, I think for Yuki's case, I personally think he's not really auditioning for the Red Bull seat anymore. I think he's more just driving to keep his current seat. I think the team is eager to get Lawson in, and they're looking at, you know, whoever's the worst performing of the two between Ricardo and Yuki. That I think that's where Liam's going to go, and then that's basically what their plan is until 2026.
You think that's the last year of Checo's time at Red Bull?
Checo, beyond next year, I don't really know. I think right now he's auditioning for next year, right? His seat is his to lose, has been stated by the team. And so far, he's done an amazing job. I think, maybe we were kind of underestimating him a little bit. But at the same time, I don't want to get overreactionary. I've been disappointed once before with Checo. I mean, last year, I think he started really strong, and then I think the trying to match up with Max got to his head a little bit. So I think this year it seems as though he's more just kind of focusing on himself, focusing on his races, and not really doesn't seem to be getting lost in his setups through practice and all that stuff like that. So if he's able to be consistent and stay focused, and not get lost in trying to keep up with Max, I think he can have an amazing season and definitely earn that seat. Because if they're locked in with 1 and 2 this year, there's no reason that they're going to make a change for next year, right? Like, why take what they if they want to have a 1-2 lockout, why would they remove the guy that's guaranteed that to them 2 years in a row? So
yeah, he's really in the early going of the season showing shades of Checo 2021, which is a good thing. I know he'd like his bid at a championship, but he's kind of got to just weigh his odds and run his own race, which when he does that, like you said, he looks great.
Yeah. So, this weekend, like we said, great weekend for Sergio, even better weekend for Max. This was kind of what we expected. This is a great track for him. Obviously had the DNF last go around in Australia. So, great way to get back up there for him with just driving a clean race. Was basically over from the second restart on.
Oh yeah.
McLaren started off looking kind of decent in the weekend. Their qualifying time by Lando got him up into P3. Was not too far off. I think he might have outperformed the car a little bit just in qualifying, because the team themselves expressed that they were overall not anticipating being on the podium. They were kind of disappointed by the performance that they ended up having when they got to the weekend. And compared to last year, it should have been a really great track for them. And so for them, wasn't the worst finish performance, but at the same time, you can see just the comparison between them and the Ferraris. The Ferraris have gained much more headway than the McLarens since Suzuka last year. So.
Yeah, and like you said, Lando definitely, I think, did outdrive the car this weekend. But you could see sort of where that median was in Oscar Piastri's performance, which wasn't terrible, but he was overtaken and passed by George Russell in a Mercedes that we know is struggling.
Yeah, Oscar got kind of stuck behind Fernando a bit too, and kind of fell victim to the ever amazing Fernando Alonso defensive driving.
Oh,
so
yeah. Pulling out a little bit of that Carlos
is.
Sainz magic right there with that DRS chicken.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Exactly. So not the greatest weekend for Oscar, but the team, I think, still taking overall as somewhat of a positive, even though they weren't quite, as close to the Red Bulls as they wanted to be. But
yeah. And I got to give it up a little bit to George too, because he had a very solid race. I'm saying, Oscar struggled, but it's also a little bit of George just running a really, really good race. He had a good start to the race and then waited and waited and waited for his most opportune moment and ends up putting a beautiful move on Oscar Piastri around the outside. He actually overtook him twice. He overtook him once in the beginning. Oscar ends up taking that place back, and then on the very last lap, lap 53, George just sends it, overtakes Oscar, and one of my least favorite things to do is give George Russell his flowers, but it must be done.
Yeah, what did you make of Lewis letting him by early on?
Oh man, I wrote down in my notes just Lewis woes. It continues, and it was the right move. They called for team orders to swap cars. Surprisingly, Lewis didn't put up any sort of an argument, at least that I saw. He just within a lap of them making that call, lets George by. He did have a lot to say about loss of pace, about struggling to find time in certain areas. Things just don't seem to be going well for Lewis, and the meter that we've been counting of how checked out is Lewis, I think it's just getting higher and higher each week.
Yeah, I mean, Lewis asked, right? Like he was like, you guys want me to let George by?
Oh, I didn't catch that if he did.
He's like, he was like, do you guys want me to just let him by? Because I don't know if this is working out for me right now.
Oh, man.
That's a little paraphrase, but yeah, I think it also kind of seemed to me like Lewis was kind of running the strategy that they had planned out at the beginning of the weekend, and maybe George was kind of calling an audible in the race, and
that's
kind
some
of just
George Russell
doing his
shit if
own
I've ever
thing.
heard of it.
I don't know for sure, but that's just kind of one of my thoughts I had. But yeah, and I think Lewis is definitely still struggling, and with him taking the more experimental approach on setups during the weekends, it's hard to say where exactly that's coming from. But I think
what was experimental about his setup?
That's what I don't know, but I know that just it's been stated that in an effort to help get the car in a better place, Lewis is taking a more unconventional approach when doing their setups to try to find a little bit more performance, whereas George maybe is just trying to just hone in on the baseline that they already have.
Jeez,
And
that's
not
just
necessarily
Lewis taking another one for the
things that are too
team.
different.
That's just Lewis being a wingman for the third year in a row. Jeez.
Yeah. So his motivations for doing so, I don't know. I mean,
Yikes.
He probably just knows that baseline is the car doesn't have it, so he's got to just search and pull for whatever he can do. But, yeah,
brutal. So we're talking about the McLarens a little bit ago. Let's talk about the Ferraris and their performance, because going into the race, Lando Norris started what was it, P3?
Yeah,
and he ends up behind both Ferraris, finishing P5, and that's just good on both Ferraris. Chuck starts P8 and moves up to finish 4 places ahead. Solid drive from him and from Carlos.
Yeah, one of the only drivers to pull off the one stop.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
So yeah, he was stayed out on those mediums and just made them work. And yeah, I mean, just compared to last year, like this is what I was talking about earlier. Like one of their cars' disadvantages that they had last year was the tire degradation, right?
Oh yeah.
So and that they didn't have quite the same race pace as they did on the Saturday qualifying, right? So this Go in Suzuka shows us that they've fixed both of those areas, right? Like also with their strategy, like making the right calls at the right time, like just not making any mistakes there, and look how it worked out for him. So
yeah, definitely
Charles.
They out strategized Ferrari this weekend.
Or McLaren.
That's what I mean. Sorry. They out strategized McLaren this weekend. There we go.
Yeah, so amazing drive for Charles. Carlos, it was they're solid, not too flashy, just a couple moments, but solid drive. So like I said, proving that the Ferrari has made great gains since last season.
His race definitely making up for a lackluster qualifying.
Yeah, and then you compare that to, like we were just talking about, the Mercedes, right? Like the Mercedes team hasn't been able to figure out how to fix their problems and make the car better, right?
Yeah.
Where here, Ferrari, they identified what their problems were, where they were lacking, and were able to like successfully improve it in those specific areas. So
Yep.
it's pretty amazing to see,
It's nice.
This,
It's nice. It's
um,
giving us a bit of
my
excitement that we need for this season.
yeah. Well, my next question though is where is that ceiling? Because they've made a lot of gains in this, you know, 6 months or so. Where we start to get to the like, uh, 2/3, 3/4 of the way through the season. How much further along are they going to be? Are they going to hit a wall somewhere? Or is RB going to take off in stride? I don't know. So
My gut tells me
excited
that
to see
they
how
have
this is going to
reached
go.
the ceiling. That's my gut feeling, is that they have reached the ceiling. And I would obviously love for them to get to the exact same point as Red Bull. Do I see it happening? I don't know. It doesn't seem quite logical. It seems like such a far stride that might be out of reach. But do I want it to happen? Absolutely.
Do you know which team actually made the biggest improvements compared to Suzuka last year?
I would say Haas.
It's close, but it's not Haas. It's actually Aston Martin,
Oh, wow.
if you can believe it. Yeah, I mean that's how down bad they were at the end of the year last year.
Yeah,
But
off a cliff they
in
went last
terms of
year.
yeah, so in terms of like outright pace, they've made the biggest leap forward,
Interesting.
which I felt was pretty interesting.
Yeah, Lance Stroll didn't have the greatest showing. He had a couple little moments on the radio where he was getting a little whiny.
Yeah, he was complaining about their top speed on some of the straights, which was
Yeah, that's a throwback to the Fernando Alonso GP2 engine quote.
which now that I'm thinking of it is a common trait amongst the Mercedes powered cars.
Oh, yeah. Unless you're in a Williams,
So
I guess.
McLaren having issues, Mercedes not doing great on the straights. So
God, how great would it be to see a McLaren powered by an RB engine? Not that they would ever sell to them, but I think that could fix a lot of their issues.
yeah, or I mean, just re-linking that relationship with Honda.
Yeah. If Honda's really looking to get back in the game, why not throw Aston Martin and McLaren a bone? Huh? All right, B-Wood, what else we got?
Props and flops.
Let's do it. You got any?
My first flop is going to go to again to Sauber.
Ooh.
Had a chance with Valtteri Bottas to score some points, and under that pit stop we talked about earlier, where Yuki made out. It was actually Valtteri Bottas with a 4-second stop.
God damn.
Ended up losing a bunch of positions in the pit. 4 seconds, like that sounds like a bad pit stop, but it was actually like decent for them. Like that was good. So until they figure that out, they're just going to be shooting themselves in the foot weekend after weekend. So hopefully we see something soon. Missed out on points though this weekend. So
Yeah.
flop for Sauber.
I would say that I don't know how in the running for points they were, because he started the race 13th and ended it in 14th. So he loses one position, and the cars ahead of him were Nico Hülkenberg, who's been on form, and then the two RBs. So I might disagree that he had a shot at points, but you can still go ahead and flop them for a 4-second pit stop 100%. My initial thought was to flop both Alpines, because good God, they've looked bad all season. This might have been the worst they've looked. But I'm not going to flop them, because I think that it's time we, as Formula One fans, and that I mean I'm including all of us, just get used to the fact that they are the new tractor. They're the new Haas. They're the new Williams. They're the new shitbag in town. And seeing them in the back is just something that we need to get used to, and it's just par for the course right now, so I'm not going to flop them. I am, however, going to flop Logan Sargent and the entire Williams team. Logan having just another, what's the right word? Disgraceful showing to start this weekend out, losing it in the first practice session, doing more damage to that car. I hate to do it to the Williams team, but when Alex Albon catches the bad end of a racing incident, not their fault, but just tacking it on to a pile of shit, ends up DNFing in the first lap of the race. Just that's a flop for you, Will. That's a flop.
I'm sure if it was legal, they would have had Alex and Logan swap before that restart.
Yeah, because they drove the exact same two cars, right? Like Alex is still driving Logan's old car. Logan's now driving Alex's old car. They probably would. Yeah, I get what you're saying. They would have had Alex just get in Logan's car for after the red flag.
Yeah, Alex just they give him a quick check at medical, make sure he's didn't get a concussion or something, and then throw him back out there.
Back in the 70s and the 80s, maybe even the 90s, that probably would have been legal. Back in the days when they just had a spare car on hand, I could see that actually.
Yeah,
being
they just
a
hop
legal
in the
thing.
second, get back out there.
Yeah. So who do you got for your prop?
It's kind of tough, man. I think it's going to go to Yuki just because this is his hometown race. He got his point. I know his future is there's a lot that's unclear about his future, but I think he looks forward in 10, 20 years. He's still at least going to have this points finish, this overall weekend for him. I think he's going to be able to cherish it for the rest of his life. So I was very happy for him, even though, I think maybe his ceiling is a little higher than a 10th position.
Yeah.
But I think it's just cool to see him get this little win. Considering last year he lost out to Liam and he got 12th. So
yeah,
nice bounce back.
I love it.
Good for Yuki. Small shout out for Checo. Just I want to see him keep his head down and keep the momentum going.
Hell yeah. Since you took those two, I'll go a different route and go a big prop to Charles Leclerc. He started the race in 8th, finished it in 4th, just missed out on a podium to his teammate. He gets around Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, Fernando Alonso, and Lando Norris to move up. I mean, all of them, having their own separate issues, but you can't take that away from him. Four spots up, massive prop. Old Chucky boy.
Beautiful.
Anything else before we wrap this baby up?
No, I think that's it. I wish now I had my my F1 game going so I can go and play this track. I don't have anything I can play the F1 game on right now. So I've been itching to get some track time in. So
ooh, maybe I'll do that in your honor as soon as we wrap this up. I also did just download the new NHL 2024. Pretty sweet. All right, well, that'll do it. This has been the Japanese Grand Prix post-race edition. Be sure to follow us on all socials, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Check out our With Koji. Is it still With Koji or we have, we're with Beacons.
Yeah, so just go to our Instagram or our TikTok. We got everything there.
That shows how little I know about this show.
Answer. You're just the talent. You're not the producer. So
there we go. That's what's up.
You're not supposed to know those things. You got an excuse.
And I never will.
All right. Well, see you guys next time. If you got questions you'd like us to address, please send them in the comments. You could DM us, email us, whatever you want. Happy to hear from you. Looking forward to, I guess we have a week off before China, so we'll do a preview episode probably. And then China is going to be fun because this is going to be a sprint weekend.
Oh, yeah.
We haven't been here in at least 4 years.
4 years.
Right? So it's going to be a very, very weird weekend for a lot. I think somebody's going to make some mistakes in their setup, and it's going to be an awful weekend. So
yeah, it'll throw a nice wrench into the equation. I hope, and we'll finally get a good look at Shanghai that we haven't seen in 4 years.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. All right, guys, that's it. We'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.